Hello and welcome to the Hardy Brain, the show that takes athletic, introverted entrepreneurs and leaders and transforms them into ironclad brain performers. I'm your host, Dr. David Hardy. And today on our show, we've got another amazing guest. She is a perimenopause naturopathic doctor, keynote speaker, and hormone expert. Welcome to the show, Dr. Jennifer Bunzermeier. How are you doing today?
Hello, Dr. David. I'm so happy to be on. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is going to be a very informative and exciting show because menopause, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, it's going to affect everybody in society. You have family members that go through it, or you're going through it yourself. What was kind of your journey to get you into kind of this? Uh, I want to say niche, but it's larger than a
Yeah,
niche. Yeah, it's
right.
it's an
Exactly. It has
underserved
become
part of healthcare.
absolutely yes. And it started with me starting this to feel the symptoms. And at first, I
Ah,
didn't know. I didn't know those symptoms were starting to happen. It's very insidious how it sneaks up on you. And I was just noticing my stress resilience was not as good. My sleep was going off. My energy was down. And the straw that broke the camel's back was I all of a sudden started getting migraines when I never
okay,
had a history of headaches.
right. And you're
And I
you're a
knew
naturopathic doctor at this stage as well. Like, did part
I
of you
was a
just
naturopathic doctor for 12 years. And that's my
wow,
point is that
yeah,
even as a health practitioner, I didn't recognize it in myself at first. It took me about 6 months. And then I finally went, huh, I'm in perimenopause. Like I did the same
oh wow,
thing
yep,
that every woman does, but I'm only 42. How can it be happening? Right?
right, yeah,
So it's this like insidious thing that sneaks up on us. And yes, it could be something, the migraines could be something else, the brain fog could be something else. So, yes, it's important to get that full workup, but that's how it started for me. I started noticing my eyes shifting. They went from 20/20 vision to all of a sudden needing reading glasses and
okay,
then
yep.
having to change that prescription 3 times in 18 months. It was very odd for me to start feeling these symptoms.
And you mentioned
And
feeling there. Like, what else were you getting? Like, mood wise, what was happening to you? Like, yeah, you're
very,
probably
yeah,
prime of your life, or you're feeling like this is going well, and
this
you're like,
is,
I've got migraines, I have no energy, and this sucks. What's happening? Like,
yes. And
what
the
was that feeling
PMS,
like?
that
Right.
feeling is it's the PMS, it's the brain fog that comes from that because when you're headachy and your energy's down and you're not sleeping well, you start to feel that brain fog and you're just not following sentences like you used to be able to. There's a huge thing that's happening in the brain where the brain is responding to the shifts in the hormones that are happening.
Oh, yes, yeah, definitely. And like,
Mhm.
what was like a story here of maybe how you interacted with your like a loved one or something at that moment in time that you're like, oh, yeah,
Yes.
this is happening.
Yes. Yes. So, and that's exactly it. I started feeling those symptoms and and I always get from my patients and my husband as well would say, "What is going on with you?" Right? Or but you snap at your coworker and then you're like, "Who am I? What is happening? Why am I so short fused?" Right? So, there's that mental shift is happening. PMS is real. You're not imagining it. The brain fog is real. The anxiety is real. And that's because early perimenopause, the progesterone is decreasing, and progesterone is anxiolytic. It calms us down. It keeps us more even keel. So if we have less of it, then we're more snappy. We're more not managing the stress as resilient as we can be. But if we also think about, it's a double whammy because we're also in our, like you said, the prime of our career, raising families. We've learned in our 30s to be parents and build careers. So that stress resiliency gas tank is not as optimal as we want it to be. It's come down. And so the combination of the hormone shifting, and I see it all the time in practice, that stress resiliency just not being there as efficient, that affects the nervous system. And
Oh,
then,
yes.
yes, as you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
then we're
really.
more anxious.
Oh, massively so. And yeah, and everybody kind of turns to sex hormones. And like for men, I've been in men's group, and they're like constantly saying what their testosterone level is, and or oh, I'm taking
Yes,
tea and I'm feeling great. And I always go there's a hierarchy in hormones, and you mentioned this energy side of it as well. And I'm like,
yes,
well, the basic building blocks of hormones I always go to is going to be your blood sugar, so your insulin, and your
yep,
cortisol. And
yep.
how are these also affected during menopause or middle age for everyone?
Absolutely. So this is my message as well, Dr. David. It's yes, there's the sex hormones, but there's this blood sugar piece that starts happening and cortisol piece that starts happening. And cortisol really affects our blood sugar balance and our lack of. And so if our cortisol is really high, it affects our ability to manage that blood sugar.
Right,
And then in menopause, when estrogen lowers, that's when we become even more susceptible to insulin resistance, and insulin
uh,
starts to rise. And so that starts happening in perimenopause, or could be happening in our 30s from other things, PCOS, or other things happening from an insulin resistant perspective. So there's a shift in our stress hormones, I would say, and there's a shift in our cortisol, and then that's affecting our blood sugar as well.
right. So if all of these, like, leading question here, if all of these are kind of out of whack or dysregulated before going into perimenopause and menopause, the symptoms are just gonna like explode even more, aren't they?
Exactly. Thank you for asking that. That's exactly it, is that, and this is my premise with women in their 40s. If I can help educate and support you, and you're doing the things all through the 40s of um, having enough energy, sleeping well enough so that you're able to do the diet and the exercise, because there's a reason why we all know we should eat healthy and exercise for the most part. But there's a reason why we're craving, or there's a reason why we're not prepping meals, or we're pressing snooze. If we're up between 2 to 4 in the night, then we're going to press snooze and we're going to miss our workout. Right. And so all of those, if we could, the more we could do in our 40s, that helps prevent like insulin resistance in menopause. If we're insulin resistant all through our 40s, then we're setting ourselves up for not good menopausal outcome, because we've been there. Our cells are used to being insulin resistant for years, and then we have menopause hit, and that's pronounced even more. So my goal with
Yes.
women is to educate them about what can we do from a prevention standpoint now all through our 40s to help the aging process.
Well, not just in your 40s, like of course,
For sure.
teenagers, and
Yes.
when they're first developing these fluctuation in hormones, like women especially, their their hormone system is hijacked even before puberty. Like blood sugar
Right.
levels are out of control, inflammation, all sorts of things that just damage that process. And then on top of it, birth control. And
That's true
hormones
too.
are
Mhm.
already being hacked and uh, messed around with, and
Affected.
probably for good reasons, but also this just causes dysregulation later. And not just that, like
Mm.
maybe somebody can make it through their 20s because, yeah, you're a 20-year-old. But
Right.
30-year-olds
The body can
can come
respond
down.
easier.
Yeah. And yeah, what
Yes.
goes on though? Like there's other conditions that are very similar to menopause that we see happen at earlier ages, and hormones are
Hmm.
kind of the key culprits. Many more things going on, but
Yep.
kind of the key culprit. Um, can you kind of
Yes.
speak to
So,
the interrelationship between all of this then?
really good question. So I would say hormonal havoc, we'll call it, or dysregulation can happen at any age. And so we know PMS is I see teens with PMS symptoms starting to surface as their hormones are trying to figure themselves out. We usually, in a teenager, the first year, the hormone regulation is not totally regular and her period might not be totally regular. And so PMS can be happening, but we know PMS is also diet related. So if diet is off in teen years or anytime, that can affect PMS. Um, Endometriosis,
Yes.
PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome, uterine fibroids, but we usually don't see those until 40s, usually, generally speaking, but anything's possible. Those
Right.
are the more common hormonal dysregulation things. Hypothyroid as well. Thyroid is totally affects our hormonal
Oh,
regulation as well.
massively. And once again, another energy type hormone in that system.
Yep. And like we when we think of thyroid, we think of metabolism and weight gain.
Yes. Yeah.
But if your thyroid is sluggish or hypothyroid, think about like that is metabolism is affecting not just weight, but it's affecting everything. Like if all the enzymatic functions are slower in your system, that's going to affect everything: digestion, constipation, memory and concentration, all of those things. So from a hypothyroid perspective, it's a huge piece of our health as well. So you're right in saying, like, it's not just 40s, but how can we set ourselves up for success early on, teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, for good health?
Right. Now, for this good health, and also to help somebody who's going through this, what sort of things do you look at and then kind of prescribe for people to do then?
Hmm. So I would say, from a perimenopause perspective, let's go perimenopause first.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, So, when we think about menopause, we generally think about weight gain, hot flashes, and mood swings, which are very important. But I also like to bring the educational piece of lowering estrogen sets us up for risk of bone loss, cardiovascular disease, dementia, and diabetes and insulin resistance.
Yeah.
So, like we've been talking about, anything we can do in our because women can go into perimenopause in their mid 30s even. So I'm going
Oh,
to say
wow.
extend that to
Yeah.
30s and 40s. Anything we can do from a diet exercise perspective, because the evidence-based literature shows that exercise and diet are key things for helping prevent all of those diseases. So the more we can balance our blood sugar with diet, so eat that, I call it the um, build your plate principle. So half your plate veg, quarter plate protein, quarter plate starch. So your blood sugar is more balanced. That is going to help set us up for success. So our insulin is more regulated through our 30s and our 40s. So there's, but what I find is sleep is starting to go off at this point. And this is when women
Oh,
are
yeah.
starting to wake up at 2 a.m. And
Hmm.
then mind is racing. They're anxious. They're like, and they're up for 1 or 2 hours. And so they're going to hit snooze. They're going to miss their workout. They're probably going to miss prepping their meals. They're getting the kids out the door, like all the things, right? So I figured out early on where I really need to start is supporting the sleep aspect, modulating the cortisol response that's happening, that's causing that wake up, supporting the nervous system so that they can sleep through the night. And then once they get better sleep, their energy is better through the day, that they can start instilling those workouts, eating, then their willpower is better, which then helps with diet control and which I say that word loosely because we don't want to trigger eating disorders, but having good blood sugar balance when we can, kind of thing.
Absolutely. And how much about fat metabolism kind of goes in that equation then too? Um, because with men, of course, we
Mhm.
always think hormones of cholesterol building blocks, and sometimes a ketogenic diet seems to kind of level people out. What about for women? Because the metabolism is different and kind of more carb heavy
Yes,
versus ketone and fat.
right. So, truthfully, I'm not a huge fan of the keto diet for women, I will say. I am more of a middle of the road, how build that plate principle, have your good healthy fats, unless we're seeing a woman in like more of an insulin resistant place or diabetes place. There's some literature that supports keto, but I find that
Hmm.
keto is it's hard to stay on, and I
Right, it
worry
is.
about the gallbladder, to be truthful.
Well, I've seen more
So,
gallbladders removed from people who have horrible diets versus a clean keto.
mm,
Yeah, and
mm,
yeah, it's
right.
one of
Yes,
those things. Yeah, the wrong fats will, of course, clog it up and everything
for
else.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. I
But
would
with
go
all of
more
this,
if,
mhm.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna kind of move along with this because it does seem like things need to be more individual based too. What sort of testing do you do to kind of figure this out, and what
Mm,
anomalies have you seen with it then?
right. So first off, I look at your general blood work from what they've got done from their GP. My reference ranges are a narrower reference range because I'm looking at preventing the thyroid to going into hypothyroid, for example. Or I look at trends year to year to see, is their A1C starting to go up, but it's not pre diabetic, so they're not getting flagged, but maybe it's going like I like a range of 5.2 to 5.4 for their A1C. If it's starting to get to 5.6, research actually does show that there's capillary changes happening at that point. And this is the thing that I'm seeing in perimenopause is that at first that A1C is good, and then it starts to get to 5.6, 5.7 because that's as we get to 48, 49, 50, considering the general age and menopause is 51, that A1C can be going off. So I'm looking at trends of general blood work, thyroid stimulating hormone, A1C. I love to do fasting insulin. It's not a first line test, but that tells us a lot from an insulin resistant perspective as well. First morning cortisol is very useful too.
Oh,
Uh,
yes, definitely.
mhm.
Yeah.
So that, and I find that that can tell us a lot in terms of if it's high and it's over 500, they're in a hypercortisol state, even first thing in the morning, or maybe they've bottomed out. So, So I look at that and then I look at, are they waking in the middle of the night or do they have a second wind before bed? And those are symptoms of high cortisol. And then I
Right.
would do some support from a cortisol modulation perspective.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah. Yeah, I love the cortisol test, even though there's all sorts of debate on accuracy. And I'm like, no, you're looking at a clinical picture beyond just one test. And yeah,
Yes,
cortisol can spike because of blood sugar levels dropping in the middle of the night, uh,
totally
stress,
can. Yes.
and yeah, abnormal
Yeah.
breathing too. Like if we go
Yeah.
into survival mode at night because we're not breathing properly, it's going to spike as well. And then
Yes.
crashes later in the day that are reported with this or not. So it is this
Yes.
huge picture that just makes it
Yep.
fascinating to work with people
It's
and to get
fascinating.
them better
Hmm.
because most aren't given the time for this. And
Right.
like if you look at common perceptions, and I'm sure you hear this, is hormone replacement therapy is a
Yep.
lot of people haven't done the groundwork or in conjunction with it to address
Mm.
all these issues and are just relying on hopefully one powerful treatment that's going to wax and wane maybe.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on that then?
So from an HRT perspective, okay, so first off, just wanna, for the record, say that
Yep.
HRT is out of my scope of practice as a
Fair
naturopath in
enough.
Alberta.
Right.
But what I see is women are moving towards doing the HRT, which uh, it's a it's a personal choice, but it's part of the toolkit. I have many women
Yes.
that come to me that are on HRT. It's helped somewhat from a sleep perspective, hot flash perspective, even metabolism perspective, but they're still not totally, it's not totally helped. And so that's where I often couple cortisol modulation support supplements alongside the HRT to help with sleep. Or it's maybe helped with the hot flashes, but they're still not able to lose weight because the losing weight picture is more than just like, yes, lowering estrogen causes us to gain fat mass and decreases our basal metabolic rate, but we also have to factor in, is cortisol high affecting weight gain? One thing we haven't touched on is gut health. And
Right.
if our gut is off and our microbiome is off, that's going to create more inflammation in the system. And then it's really hard to lose weight. And if we have lowering estrogen at the same time in menopause, that's decreasing inflammation. So it's like a double whammy. So this is actually a good example of, if a woman is on HRT, then and estrogen, that they have that inflammation support from that perspective. But if their gut is a mess and they're gassy, bloated, refluxy, constipation, diarrhea, there's probably some inflammation in the gut, and that is going to affect our joint health, our brain fog, our ability to lose weight. So, gut health is hugely important, and also our neurotransmitter development. So,
Right.
we
Absolutely.
know that serotonin is made, like 90% of serotonin is made in the gut. And so, if our gut is off, that's going to affect our mood and our ability to make those neurotransmitters. And so it's not just hormones. So I find that HRT is part of the toolkit, but it's part of the toolkit. There's other things we need to look at as well.
Oh, absolutely. Now, with that being said, now a lot of people are going to kind of shoot off and say, well, didn't you do everything right going into this and you still had perimenopause symptoms? Like,
Total. Uh-huh.
weren't you checking your
Yes.
gut health and everything as a health practitioner?
Totally, I was. Yes, absolutely. But I am human. And like, I see my own naturopath. I see my own chiropractor, because I am biased to myself. And so I would say yes. I live a very healthy lifestyle, but I'm also not perfect. And that's like, this is just part of, I would say, actually, hormones there's a big shift happening all through our 40s. And we're doing the best we can to help that shift happening, but it's going to happen.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we have to allow the body to adapt. So I still feel symptoms, and I've been in it for almost 10 years, but I feel like I have less symptoms, or when the symptoms roar up and the red flags are symptoms are a red flag, our body is off. I know I need to do some work because I am human and things slide, we ebb and flow, and then your body tells you. And that's just the ebb and flow of life, right? So it's just like they say, like Lisa Mosconi, she's the big menopause brain researcher. She's written a wonderful book. She states that in her research, she's found that the brain actually does regulate out after 5 to 7 years into menopause. It gets used to the lower estrogen, and then our memory does get better. So we just have
Yes.
to hold out for 5 to 7 years, which I know is a long time, but our body is adapting, right? We're not ever going to be 20 or 30 again.
So psychologically, how do you walk somebody through that? Because now they're in a state where
Mhm.
mm, emotions are changing. And on top of it, like the
Yep.
outlook is what, 5, 7 years of this? And
Yes.
oh,
So, yes,
oh,
yes. So the cycle, so first off, knowing that there is something that happens when I see women in my office, in my clinic, where they feel so much better that there's solutions for them. That,
good.
like,
Yes.
they know we have a plan and a program set in place, which is usually in stages, so I don't overwhelm them with doing a whole bunch of things at once. So they know, they feel, okay, good, we have some support. And then it's also that psychological impact of regulating our thought process too. Like, I'm really promoting um, being able to know that even though we can support the aging body, we are going to age, and getting used to the fact that we're going to age. Um, and I would rather age and never have to go through my 30s again to gain all that amazing experience. Right? So that's the payoff, because the payoff is we're now in our 40s or in our 50s with this experience. And there's something that shifts where women are like really advocating for what they need and what they want, and their confidence is building. And if that's not happening, I'm always a big encourager of do the internal mental work, see the therapist, do the coaching to build that confidence, to lessen those inner stories that are pulling you down, that are making you go, no, I need to look younger. No, I'm embracing where I'm at. I will do everything in my power to support with the tools that I have naturally, but I know my face is going to sag. I know that my bum is just not going to be as perky as it was at 30. And it's doing that internal work to feel strong in who you are and confident and listening to what you need and advocating for that. And I think there's a shift that happens in perimenopause going into menopause where women are really embracing that. And I think the knowledge around perimenopause, menopause is helping that as well. So, and then now we're embracing the strength training, building strength in ourselves. And I would say looking at there is something that shifts where the workouts and the exercise and the diet is to help support longevity versus yes, the aesthetic to a degree, but it's more our mindset is starting to shift into longevity, and I want to run with my grandchildren. I want to hike
You're right.
Machu Picchu
Yes.
when I'm 60, right? Like that's, I'm looking at all the things that I want to do in my 60s, and I'm like, that's why I'm doing the strength training and the diet support right now for my bones and my muscles and my cognitive function and everything. There's a shift that happens. And I think if we embrace that shift as women in perimenopause, menopause, we come out the other side in a very strong mental place.
Right. Yeah. And no, I love how you're saying, yeah, there is a shift in healthcare going from kind of this sick model to longevity, function, and health. And it's well
Mhm.
needed. Um, but it's also messy and yeah, finally disorders or things, dysregulation that's being on weighing on people for so long is finally coming
Mhm.
out. And you mentioned advocacy there, and yeah, as actual health practitioners too, advocacy's scope of practice and reimbursement is huge because that's kind of how the system runs. And
Mm.
what things are you kind of optimistic about? So you're doing a lot of content creation and
Yep.
advocacy yourself, kind of from that, zoom out, not to get political, but to talk
Perspective.
policy. What gives you kind of hope for future areas in this arena and in others when it comes to longevity
Mm.
and health?
Mhm. I think that perimenopause and menopause is absolutely having a moment in awareness being happening, and on social media, on research on women. And from that perspective, we're seeing more studies coming out on women research specific as well.
Yes.
So I think the combination of those two. And like when I went through perimenopause, when I first started feeling those symptoms, that was like 9 years ago. And there was no information out there. There was no one was talking about it. Like the generation before me, like their parents didn't talk about it, kind of thing, right? So now we're discussing it, we're talking about it. There's perimenopause, menopause events everywhere. There's perimenopause, menopause clinics popping up that it can be seen, you can be seen as a client, a patient. So I think the awareness is coming, that I'm super hopeful. Like I'm super, like I feel like we've made
Yeah, you
huge
look
strides
jazzed
in the
about
last.
it. Absolutely. Great.
I get a little passionate, Dr.
You
David.
should. You should. Yeah. No, it takes a lot of
Totally.
work and it's been personal for you as well. And yeah, I applaud the things you are
You.
doing. And so,
Thank
people
you.
listening in, where do they find more information about you? How do they reach out to you?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for asking. So my website is drjenn.ca, drjenn.ca. And I have a lot of information on my Instagram channel. That is at Perimenopause Naturopath. And I am a naturopathic doctor in Calgary, Alberta. So, under my scope of practice as a regulated health professional, I can see Alberta residents. I can't see beyond, but I do refer across Canada for people that are from other provinces. And so you can check out my website, contact me through there, book an appointment if you are an Alberta resident, and we can get started.
I love it. So definitely reach out to Jen. And of course, well, stay tuned to the next episode of The Hardy Brain, the show that takes athletic, introverted entrepreneurs and leaders and transforms them into ironclad brain performers. Take care.